Broncos country. It is a victory Monday. My name is Kevin. Welcome to the Bourbon Broncos and OWBN Postgame Podcast. John, you are looking really stunningly handsome today, man. Oh, sorry, that's David. David's here. That's why you look so much better.
No, I was going to say that, John, I don't know. He's quite the looker as far as I'm concerned, except for the hair and the face and the personality. Everything other than that is great, so...
Exactly. Well, hey, There's one thing we can all agree on that's beautiful, and it is the Broncos being one game out of the AFC West after the Kansas City debacle and winning yesterday as well. So, hey, guys, we're going to break it all down for you. We're going to give you our thoughts on the game and see what fun comes out of that. But welcome to the Orange Weekly post-game podcast. Orange Weekly, fans, brews, and Broncos news. Okay, guys, Broncos are back to being above 500 after winning in SoFi Stadium, a Rose divisional game win for the first time since 2019. David, how you feeling, man?
Man, feeling like at this point, like buying a lottery ticket isn't like enough to push my luck, right? Like, man, the Broncos have broken some impressive streaks this year. Like you said, first division road game win since 2019, first win at SoFi Stadium ever. First, and then you stack that on, first win against the Chiefs since 2015, first win against Buffalo on Monday Night Footballs. There's Sean Payton's picking up some accolades as far as firsts for this Broncos offense. It's encouraging to see, right?
Exactly. And let's not forget about the defense as well. I was right there in the mix with pretty much everyone else after the game that shall not be mentioned. Saying this guy is proving himself to be a failure as a coach. Nobody's ever going to want him. Is it worth getting rid of him this early in the season? Are we going to wait till the bye week? This guy is just going to hold us back, blah, 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 blah. Right. Hey, I'll eat my words. I'll eat it. Like, look, I was wrong. I think we can all at this point say like this has been a defense that has really turn itself around, and a huge amount of accolades go to Vance Joseph for that as well.
No, I think it's time to stop. I think it's time to move on from the apology conversation, because I think we've all come to that point, and move on to the assistant coach of the year conversation for Vance Joseph and what he's been able to get out of this defense, what he's been able to coach up after just the disastrous start to the season. I mean, good gosh, I don't know how much of this credit you can rightly put at Jaquan McMillan's feet, but it feels like lots. It feels like having that guy he's so good that he's become a chess piece for the defense. It's not just like he can do his own position really well, but it feels like he's lifting the other guys around him right now. Yeah. And that's super impressive to watch for a nickel cornerback, undrafted rookie like that. It's really special to watch it unfolding in front of us.
Are we talking about Chris Harris Jr. or Jaquan McMillan? Because it sounds very similar.
Chris Harris made this point on Twitter the other day because somebody made that exact comparison, and he said, "No, I was me, and Jaquan McMillan is Jaquan McMillan, and we're both doing different things." But the comparison is certainly apt when you get into, undrafted rookie slot corner. Second year, but And it's refreshing to see the rest of the defense being sparked by that too. It feels like back to front, this defense has kind of had a revolution. And watching the pass rush be really effective week in and week out, despite the fact that you don't have what you would consider blue chip talent at that position. To watch your guys get after it, to watch the blitzes that Vance Joseph schemes up, get home and confuse offenses. It's it's just so encouraging to see schematically from a defense that we thought was just going to be destitute for the rest of the season, right?
Well, especially after getting rid of Frank Clark and Randy Gregory, it was like, well, there go our premier pass rushers. There goes the blue chip talent they were talking about, right? And now we're going to have to rely on Cooper, who is, shown sparks, and Benito, who has also shown, even fewer sparks, but maybe a couple. Otherwise, we're talking about maybe being a bust, right? They go out there, right. And, I think they're probably getting close to being in the conversation of an underrated pass duo. I think teams are really going to have to start respecting the pressure that those guys are bringing, especially when you add like Alex Singleton, the rushes right down the middle and everything like that are just really throwing off these teams.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's unfortunate that Nick Benito goes out with the injury in this game. And Sean Payton did not update his status today at all, which seems concerning to me. That feels like an injury that might linger. Fortunate though, Jonathan Cooper, who also left the game with an injury at a certain point, was able to come back, finish the game, probably will be good to go. Because, just Baron Browning and Jonathan Cooper is thin enough. Like, after that, you're going to have to rely on Quan McMillan and PJ Locke, like we saw during the game a lot this game, to really help out that pass rush. And like you said, to have Jewell and Singleton coming on those A-gap blitzes up the middle. It's going to become even more important that the Broncos can do that successfully. But I do at least have faith in Vance to keep scheming stuff up.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, it wasn't this game. He does some funky stuff. It was 2 games ago now. I think it was the Texans game that the 4 defenders who were closest to the ball all dropped into coverage. But I think on the same play, the Broncos rushed 6.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting to see what he's doing with these players. And it's, encouraging that they can continue to do that down the stretch, I think.
Right. And, as they develop more as a unit, they're going to be able to do some of those complicated things and see what works and what doesn't work. And, you're seeing they're communicating better. They took probably 2 big steps back in terms of what was in the playbook to really simplify things. And it looks like they're slowly adding things back in and getting more creative as, Vance Joseph and the coaching staff figures out who these players are and what their strengths are and what their weaknesses are. So, but let's go ahead and break down and really start focusing on this game here, man. Normally what we do here, for everybody else who's listening is we'll rewind a little bit, if you will. And let's take ourselves back to the start of the game. So David, you're sitting there, game's about to start. What are some of the thoughts going on through your head in that moment, man?
It was one of those days where I was like, man, this is one of, there's these games in the past few years, right? That you go and you look at the Broncos roster and you look at who they're playing against, and it's like, man, they should win this game, right? They should, it probably shouldn't be that close. But you and I talked about it in the pregame podcast, right? There's this energy around the Broncos that they're just going to be in close games for the rest of the season, right? The defense, their turnover luck regressed last week, and they didn't play horrible against the Texans, but the Texans lost Tank Dell, so you had excuses. So this game, you're like, all right, well, can they get between Keenan Allen and Justin Herbert? Break up that connection is really what you're hoping to see, but you've also seen Keenan Allen just go ham on the Broncos before. So that was kind of what was in my mind right at the beginning of the game. Like, oh man, and again, glad to see the Broncos win the toss and defer, so you can see what the opposing offense is going to bring at you right away, because that really kind of sets the tone for how the day is going to go. And what, Kev, what were your thoughts on watching the Broncos, go now? Okay, help me out. Remind me how the game started. Sorry.
No, you're good.
Yeah.
So, early on, Broncos, they don't force the 3 and out, but they do force the punt. However, if you remember, the Broncos' first offensive play is that low and outside throw to Marvin Mims.
That's what it is. Okay, that's how it gets intercepted. Yep. And that's on, that's on Russ.
Same thing happened in the Texans game.
Yep, that throw's just got to be a little bit better. But the defense holds, right? They force 4 and out and don't allow any points. And at that point, because and why I had to get to that was because I remember in the chat very specifically, you're like, this is the kind of day it's going to be when that ball gets intercepted, right? And so it's like, oh man, is this
maybe an overreaction in the moment, but still, it was like, oh god, it's like the first play of the game,
right? And in past Bronco seasons, you see them punch in the opposing offense, punch that in for a score. You're down 7-0 before the game feels like it's really even started, right? Mm-hmm. And so now your offense is trying to get back in the rhythm, reestablish rhythm from a position of less than 0 because you're down 7-0. So, and instead they force the 4 and out. They get the ball back, and the Broncos offense starts a little slower than you want. They go up 7-0, and at that point you're like, so what are your thoughts when they go up 7-0, Kev? Are you thinking, man, the Chargers could still make this a game, or?
Well, when you're playing the Chargers, I mean, when you're playing in SoFi Stadium, especially, like, you never know, right? These things can change so quickly on a dime, and to, still respect the talent that Herbert has, and that connection he has with Allen, and knowing that Eckler is back there and Eckler could go off at any moment, right? Like, when it's a close game, especially with a team like the Chargers, who do have those pieces, they may not be the most fancy, best looking team in the NFL in terms of all around talent and depth talent, but they do have those playmakers that could definitely bite you. And we saw in the second half, the Chargers backup quarterback, Stick, had that huge 50+ yard bomb down the field, even though they were down, 17-7 at their 17-0 at that point. And like that right there, huge potential momentum shift. So even though you're up 17-0, all of a sudden the game is 17-7. I know we're skipping forward a little bit, but
you're right.
What you're looking at back in that moment is, man, the Broncos definitely found a way to negate that turnover early on. I think I'll just say it, stupidity on the coach, the Chargers coach's part. Can't remember his name, Brandon Staley. Like, dude, do you just not? It's almost like what's going through his head. Like, does he not respect us enough to say, we don't need the points, we'll get them later. If we don't get this, or, is it just like, man, we are so desperate because we know that we have to get points against this team if we're going to win. Either way, it's like 99% of coaches in that situation would take the 3 points and get on the board and get some sort of momentum. Like, hey, that didn't work out, but at least we got something out of it, right? Versus walking away with a huge goose egg. And now what looked like to be a huge momentum shift in the Chargers' favor after that early turnover, it's right back, swung full swing the other way into the Broncos court.
And I'll tell you, I think there were a few decisions that went into, like, a few points that went into that decision specifically for Staley. And first, he's always been a coach that goes for it on 4th down aggressively. And I do believe that he maybe didn't have enough respect for our offense to think that if he went for it and failed, that it was going to really end up hurting him in the end. I also think that he watched his team kick 2 field goals against the New England Patriots last week. And even though they won that game 6-0, it's like, man, you had Justin Herbert and the Patriots are 2-7 at that point, and you couldn't put up 6 points. I get it. Bill Belichick coaches a good defense, but man, 6 points.
Come on.
And so you're also faced with the fact that, everybody in the national football media is talking about Brandon Staley being one of the first coaches to lose his job once the season ends. And you're I don't even know if he thinks in his mind he can coach himself out of this hole, but it starts with scoring points in game situations like that. So I feel like there were 3 or 4 points that led to him ultimately making those calls. But you're right, the defense, to its credit, and as it has really done all year, held in 4th and shorts.
Yeah.
And, fourth and longs too, but fourth and shorts especially. I've been really impressed with the way that this defense has held in those situations over the course of the season.
At least one, if not twice yesterday, fourth and a yard or less, and they stuff them. They just stuff them and even lose a little bit of ground, in that. And so the fight is there. That's where you're seeing that fight all the way through. There's not we didn't get them on third down. Now it's fourth and short. They're going to get that half yard because they're going to QB sneak it or whatever. Like, let's just let them have it so we could maybe have a little bit of a break before the next first down or something, and not to say that happens really much in the NFL, but still, like, there's that little extra push. There's a little extra drive in you. And when the whole defense is on the same page like that, and you have that kind of culture, you're going to see those kinds of plays. And that we haven't seen from the Broncos, in the past. So it's good to see that the defense has not only turned it around, but I think they're stronger than ever. It's not just because the talent is there and they have a good coach, but it's that they are actually believing in themselves, and they're seeing the fruits of their labor pay off as well finally. So, they're bringing it strong from the very get-go, and it's great to see.
Yeah. Now, one thing, and you look at the offensive performance overall and you say 24 points in a road division game. That's not terrible, but it's not great either.
No.
And that encapsulates the Broncos, I think, on offense, not only this week, but kind of this season. They really have been the same offense for the most part. And it, again, feels tantalizingly close. Right. Yes. And there was some disagreement in the group chat about Jerry Jeudy, and we can bring it all up here again if we want to. But, I am still a day later, while acknowledging that Jeudy, obviously, just get a goddamn foot down. You got an eighth of the end. Just put the foot down, put a toe down, one toe.
Yep. This isn't college ball anymore, bro.
It's not. It's just not. And, so, I mean, one of that pass deep down the sideline, there was great coverage on that ball.
Sure.
And Jerry Jeudy could have made that catch, but, the deep ball where Russ had to reset and just kind of launch it to a spot. I mean, I get that it was a little far away from where Jeudy was in the course of his route when he threw it, but it hits you in the hands, man. Yep. Like,
Russ threw it there for a reason. Yes. I guarantee you Russ put it right there where it was just out of reach. If the other guy had seen it in time and turned around and chased him down, it would not have been an interception.
Yes.
Right.
So
the fact that there was that separation between Jeudy and the defender because the defender didn't react to it quick enough. Jeudy saw it, had plenty of time to course correct, look at it, find it, get in the spot where it hit his hands, and then drops it. That's the problem. I will, every time there is a great defensive play, I will stand up and say, look, great play, great defense, great defensive stop. You got our guy there. Like, there was nothing our guy could have done about it. And then you see a play like that and you're like, dude, that was just on you.
Right. Yep.
And to me, David, it goes back to, I call it a temper tantrum, but the strong show of emotions that he had on the field. In public display of showing his displeasure. And then you saw what I think was just the best thing the coach and quarterback could have done all week and come out and just give absolute support for this guy. Yes, we see that he was open on at least 2 or 3 of those big plays, and we didn't get him any looks. Russ coming out and saying, Jerry Jeudy is a great player. I have great respect for him. We're gonna do what we can to get him more involved in the game. Like, they band together and said, you know what, man? don't really agree with how you handled the situation. Maybe we need to talk about, getting a little bit maturity in you, but you're right. Let's see what we can do and get you some more chances. And man, the one that stands out to me even more than that deep sideline field that pass that he dropped was the touchdown, because you look at Courtland Sutton's catch from a few weeks ago where it was negative 0.3 yards out of bounds, when he caught it and still just got the very tiptoe of, the tip of his toe in there to make it count. And then you see Jerry Jeudy with a whole leg stride that there was just no even attempt to even put the foot down.
Yeah.
If he was like, it was a weird wide, he had like stretch out to catch it and his foot was out there and the foot just swung wide, but it was pointed down and it just didn't graze the grass. No, it was just hovering right over the field all the way out. And you're like, do you want to be here? Do you want to be here for the team, or do you want to be here for your attention? You know, to get attention. So that's where, and like I'm a day removed now. The emotion is not really as much there as it was anymore. I just think it really points to there's still some ways to go when it comes to finding the right players for this team. And I think there's going to be some of that discussion this offseason of, do we want to move forward with, with this player or that player, whoever it is, right? We already saw Randy Gregory and Frank Clark let go for a lot of reasons we don't know. We can surmise and we can guess, right? But you're looking at, is this guy going to be a team player moving forward? So I don't know, David, like what else did you think about the Jerry Jeudy situation? And
that's, that's a reasonable discussion to have for the off season. I just, for sure, right now.
Yeah.
I'm just like, I get where you're coming from with the frustration of what happened last week versus what then goes out on the field this week. And it's just, but for me, it's like, okay, but right now where the team is at 7-6 with 6 teams in the AFC tied at 7-6, and you want to make a playoff berth.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So the position that you're in with the head-to-head losses that you have in the conference, and we've talked about it before, means you can afford maybe one more loss this season if you realistically want a shot at the playoffs. But to give yourself a really good chance, you got to win out.
Yep.
And to string together that kind of end of season script, you've got to have somebody on this offense particularly, which goes out there and doesn't fire on all cylinders, on a week-to-week basis. They're not 100% together yet still. And you got to have a playmaker besides Cortland Sutton who's there and available in the passing game on a reliable basis. And we've seen Jerry Jeudy be that before. We saw it over the last 5 games of last season. He caught fire, right?
I'm not saying he's talented.
No, of course.
At all. Yeah.
But it's got, I think he's the one who's most likely to do it of anybody, with apologies to Lucas Krull, who did have a really nice play at tight end. But B, I think he's the guy who, of everybody else who's available, adds the most if he is that guy.
Yeah.
So it's just, I want to see, I hope to see them get on that page again. I want to see that connection because we know it's there. We know it's been there before. Just bring it back. Cause you guys, you're painfully close on some of these plays. And, if you turn 2 out of the 3 of those plays into good play, if you turn those into catches instead of drops, we're having a huge different conversation today. And so, it can happen that easily, Jerry Jeudy and Russell Wilson. And as I know, you're both listening and watching, it's just, get there.
Well, that's where you're looking like, how can we go from scoring 20 to 24 points a game to more than that? Mm-hmm. And you're a couple plays away a game.
Yeah.
You're a couple, and sometimes there's, you could put a little blame on Russ. Sometimes you could put the blame more on the player. In this case, there were 2 instances where you could definitely put it on Jerry Jeudy. And not to say that big pass down the sideline would have resulted in a field or in a touchdown, but at least a field goal, right? So now you're looking at maybe 27-7, maybe it's a touchdown. Maybe you're looking at closer to 30-7 being the end score, right? And so we're close. We're close to being able to really put together a more substantial offense. And it's good to see in that regard, at least.
And then you stack the narrative, right? Because if you score 27 points this week, well, now suddenly it's, the offense has scored 27 points 2 weeks in a row. And now they go up against a Detroit team that is like kind of bad on defense, like worse than any of the teams on defense that we've been playing in the past few weeks. So yeah.
I am looking forward to our discussion on the Tuesday night show. So for everybody out there, Bourbon Broncos No BS, Tuesday night, 7 p.m. Mountain Time. And we start talking about this Lions game because I think the Lions share a lot of similarities with the Dolphins in that they are really good for the most part, except this last weekend, at beating teams with losing records. But when they play teams with winning records, they struggle. And you look at the teams that the Lions have played against, they've played, I don't want to say easier teams, but mostly teams with losing records. And you see the couple of losses they have, those were all against teams with winning records. So they're beatable, is what I'm getting at. Got to respect the talent they have, but they're beatable. And the Bears showed that like none other this last week. So I'm excited to that game.
Absolutely.
So there's a little tidbit for everybody out there.
Yeah, a tease, if you will.
Tease.
So make sure you join us on Bourbon Broncos and No BS tomorrow, 7 p.m. Quick want to give a shout out to Joey for watching, because Joey, thanks for watching. And I have to go on a mini rant here about Tommy DeVito. Not so much a mini rant. Look, NFL media, I understand Tommy DeVito is Italian.
Yep.
That talking point got less interesting after about a half. And then the next 2 weeks, it was just, the number of Tony Soprano memes on the timeline. All right, guys. Yeah, he's Italian. And, then he goes out and plays a couple of stinker football games, and you realize, that was the most interesting thing about him the whole time. Anyway.
Exactly.
Rolling back to this Broncos game. And I do want to talk a little bit about the Lucas Kroll play, which
I want to talk a lot about the Lucas Kroll play. Okay. I love it.
Let's talk about it. It's too early to anoint this guy as the next receiving threat at tight end, right?
Sure.
And you want to see him put out a little bit more consistency, but man, that was a big play when they needed a big play, right?
There's something to be said about when you're so open like that, it can sometimes be tougher to make those catches because you have time to think and analyze, there's no one around. And so, how many times have we seen just people wide open? Not just on the Broncos. I'm talking about across the league, across any sport, like guys wide open or has a wide open net to get the puck into or whatever the case is. And they just miss. They just drop the ball. It's like, how could you do that, right? Not only it's human, but it's like you're a professional. You need to do those things, So it's almost like when there's that much pressure on you, you're like, oh wow, I have time to recognize that everybody's eyes are on me. I have no one around. I have got it. I better catch this. And then by the time it's there, maybe you just don't catch it just right or whatever. So there's something to be said about a guy who gets that open and just is able to make that happen.
Yeah.
And it was a brilliant play design, by the way, too. Brilliant.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. And it's the kind of thing where you like this offense misses open guys sometimes, or Russ misses open guys, and it really felt like he had time. Like he felt like he had time to stand in the pocket, go through the reads, find where the guy who was schemed open is at the time where he's supposed to be there, and hit him in the window. And you saw it with the Lucas Kroll play. That drive ended in a field goal. I think that was the drive right before the end of half. But then you also saw it, we schemed open Adam Troutman on a ridiculous play earlier or later in the game for that touchdown that you were like, when I saw it was 3rd and 2, I saw them have open.
I'm confusing Troutman with Kroll. I'm sorry. Continue.
Oh, all right. Well, so we're on Troutman now.
It's okay.
So, you've got the 3 running backs in the backfield look. Yeah. You've got Russ. You've got a heavy set. You're looking at them do all sorts of crazy motion. And then you see Russ just sprint out and you're like, oh, yes. Oh, yeah, because he's got the 2 yards. He's
going to get the first.
He's got it easy, right? Just hold on to the ball as you're going down, Russ. And then you see him throw it and you're like, oh, no. What's happening?
Why are you throwing it to? Like everybody's on the right side of the field.
Right.
Like,
and
what are you doing?
I swear to God, if there's a guy just back there in single coverage and you're just trying to gun it in there, I'm going to lose it. But then there's nobody there. There's nobody there but Adam Troutman, and he just boinks it. And it's like,
got it.
All right.
Got it.
Okay. All right. That's the easiest touchdown. I'm not used to easy touchdowns.
No.
So, I'll take that all day long.
But going back to Lucas Kroll and what you were saying, the skill you're seeing here and the poise you're seeing from Russ, I think, especially on that play and the play, Cortland Sutton's big down the field touchdown. one-armed pass interference, touchdown. He had the most amount of time in the pocket I think he's had all season.
Oh yeah.
It was incredible. He stood there, made his reads, was very confident. You saw a lot of trust in the offensive line there. I think if there wasn't any real trust after about 2 to 3 seconds, he might have gotten into there's got to be somebody coming down on me from somewhere that I just don't see. Right. But he stood there. That was fantastic.
Perfect. He was perfect. He stood there. He readjusted, but he set his feet again, and had the good mechanics when he threw that ball. It was, and I think they said that was the longest touchdown in air yards of any touchdown pass this season. Yeah. So now I will say on the back end of that, we have, to my mind, when I watch the replay, I've seen Courtland Sutton get called for offensive pass interference for less than he did on that play.
Yeah.
Now, Michael Davis didn't help his own cause by literally grabbing Courtland Sutton's arm with 2 hands and basically guaranteeing that he got that call. But yeah, Sutton put his hand right into his chest there at the end of that route when he was about to catch that ball. So I was like,
sure.
Be careful, buddy. I love you. Be careful.
But yeah, don't take this away.
Don't take this away. But no, it stood. It was beautiful. I leapt out of my seat and felt joy at a December football game for the Denver Broncos in who knows how many.
That's weird.
Mm-hmm.
That's weird.
Mm-hmm.
I'm telling you, I seriously am feeling like this season is taking forever.
Yeah.
And right. I'm not complaining. It's not a bad thing. It's wow, I'm still really this invested into the Broncos football games. Obviously, we've been doing the podcast and everything throughout the whole seasons for the last 7 years, but there's a level of, wow, there's a lot of football left to be played. Okay, I see what's going on here versus can we just end this pain already?
Right.
There's 4 games left. Maybe we could win one and just not end the season too terribly. Can we get the 5 wins on the year? It's not like that. It's very reinvigorating. So yeah, this is great, man. I think we're all feeling it, and we all should just be, for all the fans out there that have stuck with the Broncos through all of the crappy years. This is why. And not to say, welcome back to the fans that are like, oh yeah, my Broncos are doing good again. Look, glad you're here, but I'll tell you what, you're not feeling it as well as the rest of us are.
Yeah.
We are above cloud 9. This is this we're at. So we're talking, before I go there, before we kind of start thinking about closing this out, David, what other big takeaways did you have for this game? What other things did you see or, really excited you or maybe even concerned you about moving forward?
The run defense is getting better. I don't want to say it's good yet. They still let Austin Eckler have 5 yards a carry. They allowed the Chargers as a team to get 4 yards per carry.
Mm-hmm.
And they were kind of, they kind of played themselves into a situation there where they were not tasked to play the run defense all that much. I think they did a little bit better last week against the Texans. But it's just one, another thing, one thing to keep a real eye on for the rest of the season, is they've got really one more big time rushing test coming up, and it's this game against the Lions. Can they do enough in the game to shut down that productive part of the Lions offense and try to make them win the game with Jared Goff? I don't want to give away too much of the pregame podcast, this being the postgame podcast, but I think that'll be a really crucial key to that game. And I didn't see quite enough against the Chargers to think, oh yeah, they've got it ironed out now. They've built on what they did against the Texans, and it's sorted now.
Yeah, I don't feel the confidence that we can go into the Lions Stadium there and just have another 24-7 game. I expect it to be a lot closer. But that's the thing. That's what I'm taking away from this game is the bounce back that we had over the course of a week. right? Losing a really big game for the team, and the players knew how important it was, right? So to lose that game, then go on the road again to Los Angeles, where they haven't won since they haven't won in SoFi at all ever. Probably some bad memories from Christmas Day last year, might have resurfaced when they walked in, some deja vu of, but they went out there and overall they put together a really, really solid bounce back game. And that tells me they're locked in. That tells me the words that Russ is saying of, I'm proud of us, we've come a long way, but we haven't done anything yet. There's still so much more work to do. We still have to improve. We're still working on it, and we're happy for ourselves, but we haven't done anything yet. I really feel that the words he's saying is what they're feeling and actually believing, and just using that to drive them forward versus saying, cool, we have 7 wins so far this year. This is the most the Broncos have had in 7-8 years. Awesome, like we're done. It's no, we're putting the foot to the pedal here. So, the one thing though, and I think this is as we get into future seasons here, it's not just can the Broncos win the AFC West. It's what does this team need to do to get a Super Bowl performance. The reason I bring this up is not, we're still in this season, right? But watching the Cowboys-Eagles game last night and just seeing how quick and precise the Cowboys offense is, even the Eagles. I mean, the speed at which they communicate and get to the line and, throw the ball, and players are just so in tune with each other. That's where we have to get as an offense, at least somewhat to that level, right? To be in that serious conversation. So look, the offense does have a long way to go. If for somehow they ended up winning the Super Bowl this year, fantastic, right? But
well, all right.
I think we're talking about getting into the playoffs, and it'll be interesting to see how they perform in a playoff, environment, because that alone is such a huge experience factor that these young players need to get, right? So there's a lot of positive for this team. There just really is. I think the amount of growth that they have to go is it's not intimidating anymore.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah. And it feels like they've got a coach who's just going to walk them through it. It doesn't feel like it's impossible because it feels like they've got the guy who's going to work with them and, figure out the best way to really deploy all of these assets. And that's when we'll have the Jerry Jeudy conversation again, right? Yeah. And we'll see what Tim Patrick hopefully maybe can bring to this offense next year. Because honestly, that's the thing.
I love Timmy P.
And he's such a perfect Sean Payton receiver. He's an excellent Sean Payton receiver, and I want to see him so badly in this offense. Yeah. And to Angelo's question here, I think balance-wise, I think they found the balance they want. They ran the ball 31 times against the Chargers and passed the ball 33 times.
Can't ask for any better.
No, and I think that's what they want to be. I think they want to get more efficiency out of their passing game. It's such a boomer bust passing game. Maybe not boomer bust, but boomer check down passing game.
Yeah.
And I think they want more out of it than that. They really do. I think you see them trying to get that at times and just not really putting that part of the offense together all that well yet. And so it's not the most satisfying answer I know, but I feel like that's just where it is this point. And I think some of it does come down to the fact that Sean Payton's offense doesn't fit Russ's strengths stylistically at times. I think they are also doing a decent job of finding the things that Russ is good at and is comfortable doing, and doing Sean Payton things to make it workable for both of them. I think that it's going to look better next year than it does this year if Russ is still the QB next year. But I think this year, I don't know that you can expect a huge improvement offensively over what you're seeing now. You may see them put together one or two more drives per game consistently that end in scores.
Mm-hmm.
But I also think you're going to see drives that are, there'll be 3 and outs for the rest of the season and more than you would like, I think.
Yeah. I think it's a very fair point, man. I think the level of detail that Coach Payton and Russell Wilson bring to the table, you give these guys a whole offseason to analyze all the footage, all of the bad. There's been a lot of bad this season and all of the good, and there's been a lot of good this season. And you're right. I don't think they're going to go out there and they're going to look like the number 1 offense in the league next year, right? But if you're telling me they can be just a little more consistent and put together on average 2 more scoring drives a game than they have this year, or at least over the last 7 weeks, dude, with his defense, that's good. You're talking about, we did 24 points here today. You're talking about 27, 30, 34, 35 points a game at that point, coupled with some very frustrating 3 and outs. But that's kind of what happens when you're also being incredibly protective of the football. So, we don't need to score 35 points a game if we're allowing only 20 or less. But it'd be nice to see us go out there and do that and be able to solidify these wins earlier on than the last 5 seconds of the game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, really. Really.
So, okay, man. That being said, any other thoughts, any closing thoughts you have on the Broncos bounce back win, taking us back to 7-6?
Closing thoughts. I thought the offensive line had a game. I know we touched on it a little bit earlier, but to bounce back as a unit, even when you lose Quinn Miners, and thankfully it looks like he's going to be okay with that weird heart injury or not heart injury, but irregular heartbeat that he had. Sounds like he's going to be okay. But even having him go down and kind of losing that cohesion that you've had all season, especially trying to bounce back after a game where you probably held up your worst since the early part of the season. The Texans were kind of badgering this. They got after this offensive line a little bit.
They did.
And to bounce back against a team, they had a good plan for Khalil Mack. They really kind of took him out of the game, and the Chargers didn't have any other answers. So that was really encouraging to see. And good to have Miners back probably next week, but just overall encouraging to see them bounce back after kind of a bad performance against the Texans.
Exactly. Look, the Broncos are in a good spot. Like, obviously, woulda, coulda, shoulda beat the Texans, and I can only imagine how much better we'd be right now. But you know what? It didn't happen. And if they learned a lot from it, then I'm okay, because now here we are facing just as an important game in terms of, I think, overall predictions. Now we are saying that this is the one game they could drop theoretically because it's an NFC team in the Lions, but you win that, you beat them, you find a way to walk away with the win there. And then you have the Patriots, the Raiders, and the Chargers, 3 very winnable teams if you go out there and you play like you deserve to be a playoff team.
And 2 of those 3 games are at home.
Yeah, exactly. So, we get through this 3-game road stretch, and we are knocking on Kansas City's door, man. Hey, Broncos fans, you might start blocking out that Sunday or that first playoff weekend. There might be a home playoff game. I don't know. Just maybe start looking at it, seeing if you can free up your schedule just in case.
All right. Now I'll throw a little cold water on this because Kevin.
Okay, good. I need it. I need to be brought down.
The Chiefs' final 4 games are kind of like the Broncos, except they don't have the Lions in there. I have to look at their schedule again. But it is not by any means a gauntlet.
No.
At the end of the season for them, they've got they go to Foxborough for at Patriots this upcoming week.
That's a Chiefs win.
Yeah, then they host the Raiders. Then they host the Bengals, which again that one, but no Joe Burrow. Jake Browning has been playing well, but is it that backup quarterback is playing well for a couple of games thing? that is going on with Jake Browning for the Bengals right now, or is he actually going to play well for the rest of the season? And again, that's at home for the Chiefs. Then their last game of the season, they travel to Los Angeles to play the Chargers.
The Bengals might be the only one there, but while I totally understand what you're saying, this is also the most beatable the Chiefs have ever been.
True.
And I think you're seeing a lot of, sorry, go for it.
No, I would love to see the Broncos play the Chiefs, even at Arrowhead, even in the first round of the playoffs, because, man, I think we could beat them. I think we could beat them. I think they would go into that game with all the confidence in the world. I really do.
Yep. Especially the way they played them in Arrowhead the first time, like defensively anyway. Yep. And then we take what we did offensively the second game. Okay. I'll tell you this. I guarantee you that the other AFC teams are looking at us right now and saying, that's out of all the possibilities here, the Broncos are the team that we really don't want to play in the playoffs because of our defense. Yeah. And when you have a defense like that, you never know what can happen. Are they going to get 3 or 4 interceptions that game against us? Where they only need to put up 17 points, it just makes it that much more interesting. So, the problems with the Chiefs becoming older, contracts are going up. They need to bring in younger talent, which is not as experienced. You're just seeing they're not as young as they were.
Yeah.
They're the team to beat, but they're beatable. So all I'm hoping for is them to drop one more game and us to win out. And by some miracle, we can say this 1-5 team ended up winning the division with the Chiefs in it. Like, it's not like the, NFC East or South, whatever crappy, NFC conference division. It's here we are as the Broncos with the home playoff game.
They were buried, and we buried them. We all buried them. We all did it at 1-5. Why not? There was a 70 burger on your record, for God's sake. Look at them now. One game out of the division.
Look at them now. Hey, this is a great spot to be in.
Yep.
David, thank you very much, man. I appreciate you tuning. There's a lot of really interesting things to look at here. And as we break down what the Broncos are doing, we are having to take a really good look at all these other games now, because for the first time, even since when Peyton Manning was here, we never had to really worried about the wild card mess, but it's very messy in the AFC right now. And so it's going to lead to a lot of other discussions of what this means, what all these other games mean for the Broncos. But end of the day, all they can do is take care of the business that they have to take care of. So it starts with the Lions this week. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Kev, it was a blast coming on and blast doing the post-game podcast here with you. I know we talked a lot about the post-game podcast, and it's deserved. The pre-game podcast is still better. But no, you guys do good work over here. We love you. It's a team effort. It really is. Awesome. Well, hey, we're going to sign out, guys. Get ready for all of the other Bourbon Broncos No BS content we have for you throughout the week from the Orange Weekly Broadcast Network, to include the pregame podcast, the Tuesday night Bourbon Broncos No BS show at 7 p.m. Mountain Time on Tuesdays, as well as the pregame Tailgate Talk live show and the live halftime hash show. So make sure you check out all of our other content. With that, guys, David, I don't think there's anything else for us to say other than end this as we always do, on a really very strong Go Broncos. Take care, everyone. Do what I like, yeah, do what I like, yeah, do what I like. Sip and go, sip is right, and I go with the flow, yeah, I go with the flow, yeah, I go with the flow, cause I know I'm the show. In the zone, here I go, in the zone, here I go, in the zone, here I go, yeah, they know I'm a pro.